Just because you're a great footballer doesn't mean you'll be a great manager. Alan Shearer lasted 8 games, Thierry Henry had to take his career to the MLS, and we know all about Gary Neville's time at Valencia. But today we're going to rank every Premier League manager in order of playing ability, looking at what they did as players, where they played, what they won, or in most cases didn't win. 20th, Jose Mourinho. Considering Jose Mourinho didn't really have a playing career, he can't come anywhere higher than bottom. In the words of Sergio Ramos, you never see Mourinho in shorts, meaning he wasn't a player, and he's right, you know. I can't find a single picture of Jose in shorts. Even in that charity game where he played in goal he had his trackies on. What's he hiding under there? To be fair to Mourinho, he did try and become a professional in Portugal, he just wasn't good enough and moved into coaching pretty quickly. 19th, Roy Hodgson. Roy Hodgson's had a crazy career and one that's taken him all over Europe and even as far as the United Arab Emirates. But that's just as a manager. When he was a player he did nothing. Hodgson actually started his playing career at Crystal Palace as a defender, but he never played a senior game, leaving them to play non-league football. I think that says it all really. And by the age of 23 he was already getting his coaching badges, clearly knowing his future was going to be on the touchline rather than on the pitch. 18th, Brendan Rodgers. It's hard to judge Brendan Rodgers' playing career because it was basically over by the time he turned 20. No, he wasn't overweight with drinking 10 pints before a game like some sort of Gary Goals figure. He actually had to stop playing because of a genetic knee condition. Rodgers got as far as the Reading reserves before I had to call it a day, but who knows how far he might have gone. He could have been as high as 12th in this list. 17th, Daniel Farke. In his own words, Daniel Farke was probably the slowest striker in the whole of Western Europe, but he certainly knew where the back of the net was, even if he barely played at any high standard back in Germany. Farke started his career at Paderborn, back when they weren't in the Bundesliga like they are today. After that he spent days in the lower leagues of German football, banging in goals despite having the pace of a pissed up snail. Thankfully for him and Norwich, he's a much better manager. 16th, Dean Smith. The Villa boss's playing career didn't amount to much, it just proved that he was a pretty loyal guy. He had long spells with Walsall and Hereford, and then went on to play more than 300 times for Leyton Orient, all of which were spent in the 4th tier of English football. The highest he played was half a season in the Championship with Sheffield Wednesday, but that was about as good as it got, and that ended in relegation. 15th, David Moyes. Other than winning a title with Celtic, David Moyes' career was pretty bleak by the looks of things. He was a defender who suffered back-to-back relegations with Cambridge, played in the 3rd tier with Bristol City, relegation to the 3rd tier with Shrewsbury, a spell back in Scotland with Dunfermline and then Hamilton, and then he ended his career at Preston in the 4th then 3rd tier. It's pretty poor really, and he's clearly a much better manager, and even that's kind of gone to pot since he left Everton all those years ago. 14th, Chris Wilder. Between 1986 and 2001, Chris Wilder played for 11 different clubs, but it was Sheffield United and Rotherham where he's had the biggest impact. They're the only clubs he had lengthy spells at, and he would spend most of his days in the 3rd tier of English football. Nothing to write home about here really, he was a right back, and I bet he wouldn't hesitate to kick you up a height if you dared to try to go past him. 13th, Graham Potter. Just like his management career, Graham Potter's time as a player was odd. Playing as a left back, he was actually in the Premier League once upon a time, playing for Southampton in the 96-97 season. He would spend a lot of his days in the First Division, or Championship as it's now known, but he never played consistently, and in the latter years he would drop right down the Football League with York. 12th, Eddie Howe. As we all know, Eddie Howe's career was cut short due to injury, which is why he went into management at such a young age. However, when he did play, he was an important figure in a Bournemouth shirt during their days in the 3rd tier. He got as high as the 1st division when Harry Redknapp signed for Portsmouth, but he would barely kick a ball due to injury. 11th, Sean Dyche. Another defender turned manager, Sean Dyche spent the bulk of his career with Chesterfield in the lower leagues, where incredibly he reached an FA Cup semi-final. But as career went on, he would play higher up the footballing ladder. He would eventually play in the Championship for both Millwall and Watford, which was as good as it got for the current Burnley gaffer. 10th, Jurgen Klopp. Jurgen Klopp is one of the best managers in world football right now, and he has been for a while, but as a player he was nothing special. He spent his entire professional career at Mainz, representing them between 1990 and 2001. During that time Mainz were a 2nd tier club, but Klopp was a fan favourite because of his work ethic and desire. He started off as a striker and at one point was actually Mainz's club record scorer, but he ended up being a defender, clearly aware of his technical limitations. Klopp knew he was never a star footballer, and once after playing alongside German legend Andreas Möller, if that's football, I'm playing a completely different game. He was world class, I was not even class. And to be honest, I think that's how a lot of fans feel about his Liverpool team. 9th, Nuno Espirito Santo. As a player, Nuno won the Champions League and the UEFA Cup with Porto, so why is he as low as 9th? Simply put, the poor bugger barely played. He was a backup keeper for most of his career that saw him play in Spain, Portugal and Russia. He was on the bench for Porto's Champions League win under Jose Mourinho, but I think the most interesting thing from his career that he was actually the first client of super agent George Mendes, who's played a big role in getting Wolves where they are today. 8th, Ralph Hasenhüttl. While he's known as the Klopp of the Alps, I think it's fair to say that Hasenhüttl was a little bit of a better player than his Liverpool rival. He was a striker and did well in his native Austria, winning 4 league titles at 2 different clubs. Sadly for the Saints boss, his career never really took off when he fled the nest, struggling in Belgium and then even more so in Germany. He barely played for the Austrian national team, but when he did he was okay, ending his international career with just 8 caps but 3 goals. But like so many of these managers, he'll go down as being better on the touchline rather than on the pitch. 7th, Nigel Pearson. Nigel Pearson can sometimes be a figure of ridicule, because of the whole ostrich thing, but as a player he was pretty decent. And considering he looks pretty hard, it's no surprise he was a defender. He played for 3 clubs in his career, playing more than 100 times for Shrewsbury, Sheffield Wednesday and Middlesbrough. He was a captain at the latter 2 clubs and played in the top tier, playing in cup finals and winning promotions with both. In 1991 he actually won the League Cup as Sheffield Wednesday captain, but nowadays he's best known for setting up the foundations for Leicester's historic title win. 6th, Mikel Arteta. If Mikel Arteta's managerial career lives up to the hype, he'll go down as a better player than a manager. But that's not to say he wasn't a good player, in fact Arteta was pretty damn good. He started at Barcelona but didn't make the grade, then found himself in Scotland where he won a league title with Rangers. It was Everton where Arteta truly looked at home though, a classy midfielder who could score goals and was a leader. At Arsenal he had the unenviable task of replacing Cesc Fabregas, but he continued to impress, winning 2 FA Cups before hanging up his boots in 2016. 5th, Steve Bruce. A lot's been said about Steve Bruce this year after he was the man tasked with replacing Rafa Benitez at Newcastle. His managerial credentials have been torn apart, with the CV that lacks more at home in the Championship. But he's proved a lot of people wrong with a solid performance in the Toon dugout, and as a player you can't question his ability. Bruce was a no-nonsense centre-back, just look at the poor bloke's nose. He was a leader during the late 80s and 90s for Sir Alex Ferguson's side, playing more than 300 times. He won 3 league titles, 3 FA Cups and 2 League Cups, and he was even pretty lethal in front of goal, despite being a defender. Yet despite all of this, the bloke never got an England cap. He's probably one of the best never too. 4th, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. The Man United boss is struggling to stamp his authority on Old Trafford right now, but as a player he was adored. The bay-faced assassin scored one of the most famous goals in Man United's history, netting the winner in the 1999 Champions League final. He was a poacher in a red shirt, often a super sub coming off the bench and finding the net. But even before his Man United career was prolific, averaging more than a goal a game for Copenhagen where he started his career. With 6 Premier Leagues, 2 FA Cups and a Champions League, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer is truly a Manchester United legend, even before he became manager. 3rd, Carlo Ancelotti. Everton are looking for greatness under their new boss Carlo Ancelotti, and the Italian has a playing and managerial career that most would envy. He started off in the Italian 3rd division with Parma, but at Roma he would be part of a famous side that won the Scudetto in 1983. In 87 he would join AC Milan and really kick on, winning multiple Serie A's, 2 European Cups, all the while playing alongside some of the greatest players in the game ever. Ancelotti didn't look out of place though, a cool and composed character in the middle of the park, playing in the Pirlo role before it was even a thing. 2nd, Pep Guardiola. Considering how good a manager he is, you can forget how good a player Pep actually was. But he was integral for Barcelona in the 90s, becoming a regular by the age of 20 and going on to the captain of the side in the middle of the park. He was always measured and calm in possession, inspiring the stars of the future such as Xavi and Iniesta. Guardiola was even a set-piece expert, often finding the top corner with a free kick. He would win 6 La Liga titles and a European Cup, as well as a gold medal at the 1992 Olympics. For football obviously, he didn't do the long jump in his spare time. He would also play in Italy, Qatar and Mexico before he kicked off that incredible managerial career. And number 1, Frank Lampard. No argument here, Frank Lampard is without doubt the best player who's currently managing in the Premier League. He was so good, he was one of those players you wonder, will he actually be any good as a manager, or will he just get jobs based on his reputation? But he's proven that not to be the case at Chelsea, doing incredibly well in just his 2nd season of management. As a player, Lampard was one of the best players in Premier League history, scoring a ridiculous amount of goals for a midfielder. He was a winner as well, getting 3 Premier League titles, 4 FA Cups, 2 League Cups, a Champions League and a Europa League, as well as a plethora of individual honours. Thank goodness Paul Scholes and Steven Gerrard aren't managing the Premier League though. There'd have been an absolute riot in the comments after I'd put them in order of playing ability. So that's every Premier League manager ranked in order of playing ability. Let us know what you think in the comments below. As always, don't forget to like, share and subscribe to HITC Sports, and until next time, we'll see you around.